in terms of yoga and the brain is because your body and your brain work better when they're clean.
Even if it did fail, I knew I could always go back to corporate and find a job.
Teaching cafeteria workers who work so incredibly hard, teaching them about handling fresh produce, how to get more fresh produce into the schools.
You need to tell people, bring a coffee to Coffee and Crystals.
But sometimes you need an intervention. You know, you need a surgery, and that's okay. You get your surgery, and then you use all these other modalities in the Ayurveda to prevent things from coming back.
Hey guys, you stumbled upon Coffee and Crystals. I'm Kadie, your motivator, your host, your hostess, and on this podcast, I am sharing a ton of information. And not only have I been highly caffeinated for a couple of years, I have knowledge of over 500 hours of yoga teacher training. I have been in the corporate world for over 15 years, so I will be your business coach. We'll talk about self-help, beauty, all things wellness and crystals. And in every episode, I am inviting you into my heart. And honestly, this adventure is pretty cool that we're going on together. We're going to meet some of my gurus, the wisdom of mentors and friends and family members. It's a good time. So stay hydrated, pour yourself a cup of coffee, and let's dig into today's episode. Join me in fundraising for the LA Marathon event, raising money for the Million Mile Project. The Million Mile Project is a nonprofit organization that helps people recover from substance abuse disorder and other mental health issues. Every dollar that we fundraise and raise while training for the LA Marathon event will give back to families and make a difference this season. It was 2 Times You, right? I was working for 2 Times You. She came in. We had like a interaction. I think you were promoting an event for Equinox.
Gosh, I don't even remember. I know that we came in there and I got workout clothes, but I don't remember what it was for.
I met Lauren. She was like, we're going to work together. We're going to do an event.
I actually do remember that.
She got me teaching my very first retreat in LA.
Yeah.
We went to Santa Barbara together.
We did. Kadie and I hosted a retreat and asked you to be the yoga instructor for it.
Lauren is the founder of the Million Mile Project, which is a nonprofit organization. You're going to hear about that today. Last year, I was scared to open up to anyone. I didn't feel like anyone understood what I was going through. I was angry. And Lauren was literally one of the first people to see me yet again, reach out, lend a listening ear, and really kind of put the pep back in my step. So thank you for that, Lauren. Yeah. I think also when I was going through my divorce in 2020, I felt like she was always catching up with me and checking in with me and making sure that I was okay. So she's on the show today to support you because she's been a big supporter on some of the hard times in my life. So I appreciate you, Lauren. You're awesome. I learned today that you do drink coffee. You're so healthy.
I love coffee so much.
We're both sporting our cups from La La Land if you're a local in LA.
I love this one. I love that be kind.
Have you ever been to La La Land?
I have.
Okay, yeah. So if you're local in LA, you got to check out La La Land. I love their matcha. But I didn't know because Lauren does a lot of things. She's a nutritionist. She's a coach. I wasn't sure if you drank coffee because I didn't know if that was healthy. So it's like, is she a tea drinker?
Years and we've known each other and you didn't know if I drink coffee or not. I mean, I guess I don't wake up with you usually in the morning, so I guess you wouldn't know that. But that's typically when I have my coffee. I wake up every morning about 5 a.m. First thing I do is get ready for the day. Because once my day takes off, I'm like, did I put on mascara? I don't even know. Like, if I don't do it first thing in the morning, it won't get done.
You always look so put together.
Oh, thank you.
So I think you're remembering the mascara.
I'm a morning person, so I get up, I get ready for the day, I have my coffee, I have my quiet time. That looks different each day. Sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I'm crying, sometimes I'm listening to music, sometimes I'm praying, sometimes I'm just sitting in silence. But I always make sure to have my quiet time. Just me. I haven't even looked at my phone yet. It's just me, my coffee, and my 2 kitty cats. And right now, my Christmas tree is up, so all the lights are off and just my Christmas tree is on.
I've seen that on your stories. It looks, I mean, I need a Christmas tree in here.
Let's do it.
I think I had in my show notes to bring up your morning routine. You just are definitely someone that seems to have it all together and on point. And my first, I know, right? You're like, I'm human too.
Yeah.
But I do have to say that anytime I have my morning routine in check, I do feel more put together. So you don't seem one to skip this. Like, how do you motivate to get up every day at 5 a.m.? But you did mention it was easy for you. It is not easy for me.
It is easy for me. I've been in the health industry for like 17 years. So it's always been easy for me. It's just second nature. Being in the health industry as a personal trainer, as a coach, you're typically training people before they go to their 9-to-5 job. So I was always at the gym 5 or 6 a.m. training other people. For myself, when I worked at 9-to-5, I was one of those people that went to the gym before I went to work because, again, like my mascara in the mornings, once I get up and get going, the day takes me away.
Yeah.
And so mornings was just up and at it. I'm in bed asleep by about 9:30 every night.
That's key.
Even on the weekends. I am like the lamest friend.
If Lauren's in your circle, probably the one that if you were having, like, if you needed someone, it would be Lauren.
Okay, so I'm not lame in that way.
Yeah, lame. Let's keep her lame because we could all use a Lauren in our life.
Yeah. But yeah, morning routine for me is really key. And, you know, you said it seems like I always have it together. And I think for the most part, I'm pretty even keel. Like, I don't have too many things in life that really throw me for a loop or take me out. But I think it's also because I wake up every morning and I have my quiet time. I prioritize my workouts, I prioritize eating well, and I prioritize my sleep. And when you have all of those things, you know, as a priority, you can handle other things. But as you know, like 15 weeks ago, like I was broken. I still am broken. And I think you know, people who don't know me personally might notice that I'm not on social media as much, or that, I don't know, you can always tell when something traumatic has happened in someone.
Yeah, people do that with me because I'm all over social media all the time. And sometimes if I just, that one day that I might be way too busy to put up a story, people check in.
Yeah.
They're like, are you okay?
Yeah.
I didn't see the coffee you were drinking this morning.
Yeah. And so I'm also not the type that does like highlight reels for social media. You're not going to know what car I drive. You're probably not going to know, like, if I went to this fine dining restaurant. Like, I don't put those highlights in my social media. Doesn't matter what brand I'm wearing. Like, those kinds of things, like, people put the highlight reel or all the happy moments. I'm more so really focused on well-being and health. I volunteer with dogs, so that's a big part of what I've been posting, like, the past year. And, yeah, the Million Mile Project, like, I'm just very intentional about what I put out there, but then, of course, when you go through something so traumatic, that does just leak in, and I've been pretty open about that.
Yeah.
Not really putting everything out there because I don't have the energy, honestly, but...
Well, you are putting in a lot of energy to the Million Mile Project. So I'd love for you to share with the community here at Coffee and Crystals. Why did you start the Million Mile Project? What's your elevator pitch of speaking to it? And share with us a little bit more about it. MMP.
Yeah. The Million Mile Project was founded because I realized the lack of resources and the lack of support that is there for those suffering from substance use disorder. We have two main programs. One is a treatment placement assistance program. So our phone line rings. We help you as far as like where you're located, if you're wanting to go to an insurance-based place, if you have insurance, if you don't, maybe you need more than the standard 30 to 42 days that insurance requires or will pay for, which honestly, let's get real, most people do. So a lot of people who we help and support and scholarship into treatment are people who are currently in a 30-day program or a 42-day program. Their insurance is running up. They will not pay for another day past that 30 or 42 days, depending on the policy. And the person is scared to death, like, I'm not ready. And so then we help them get from that program that they're currently in into a long-term program. And we partner with 5 different long-term programs. So that's our first program, the treatment placement assistance program. So helping them get into treatment and scholarshiping them if needed. And then the other program is our 6-month post-treatment mentorship program. So as someone's getting out of treatment, they have to rebuild most of the time. They might need to find a job. They might need to find housing. They might need to find housing in an environment that's, you know, conducive to their sobriety. Cleaning up their credit, not just getting a job, but actually looking at a career, looking at their future. And so when you help somebody with budgeting skills, cleaning up their credit, finding a suitable job with a livable wage, finding housing in an area and an environment that's conducive to their recovery, you're really helping them set up for success. Now, we don't take on the mentorship or like a sponsor. That's not what we do. We do want you to continue your own recovery journey and do what you have to do, maintain what got you sober to keep you sober. But we are there to mentor you as far as like life goes and get back on your feet, because it's a lot easier when a mentor is talking to you about your budgeting and credit health rather than like your mom or your spouse.
Right.
That feels like harping. They mean well, but it's a much different environment for the person to be transparent or receive tips or guidance. If I don't know your history, I don't know your past, you haven't burned bridges with me, I don't have any emotional ties with you or things that you need to make amends with me, I'm just here because I see a bright future for you, and that's what we're focused on.
So nonprofit isn't for everyone. How are you making this work? Why do you feel like this is, I guess, more of like a purpose? It's a purposeful work.
So first of all, I work a full-time job. So I run MMP, is what we call it. The Million Mile Project is MMP. I run MMP full-time also, but it's voluntary. It's volunteer work. I don't take a dime from it. I work a full-time job. But to your point, it's rough. It's rough. I think if you have a strong sales background, like, I don't know, there's a lot of different variables, and it also depends if you're helping animals versus MMP is helping people who, a lot of people don't understand the disease. They don't have the time for it. They don't want to be bothered with it. A lot of people have been caused so much pain from the disease that it is a subject that they don't really have the emotional energy to even give it time, to even have a conversation about. But I have a loved one that I watched for years struggle with substance use disorder. And to see a loved one in a fetal position on the floor begging for help, and you go to the internet and you're looking up, this was so many years ago and it still brings tears to my eyes, but you're looking up, you know, treatment programs and rehabs and therapy, and you're calling these places and they're like, yeah, that's $30,000 for 30 days. And we're like, wait, what?
Yeah. We don't have $30,000.
He's still living. Like,
yeah.
And then having to tell your loved one that, like, you can't help them. So instead, the coach in me is like, okay, if we get his nutrition right and we get him sleeping well and we get him into therapy and he starts, like, you know, start hanging out in a good community of people and start building strong friendships, like we can piecemeal this together maybe. And like, you can't.
Right.
It just prolonged the inevitable, and he just got worse. And addiction and substance use disorder is a family disease, and if the family doesn't understand it, then the individual is not properly supported. And so being that loved one, seeing, you know, your loved one begging for help and knowing that there were no resources within our reach was so painful. And then in 2015, I lost a dear childhood friend of mine and his brother within 6 months apart. And his brother had actually been in rehab. They had both been in rehab, but the brother in particular had been to rehab. It was a 30-day program that insurance paid for. And he called his mom and he said, Mom, they say I have to leave next week. I'm not ready. Like, I'm just now getting clear-headed. In his drug of choice was.
And that's big, because someone in, before they like really step into real recovery, they don't have those words to even admit that they need help. So that kind of breaks my heart to hear already that someone actually is ready to recover and can't.
And he's sitting there, his DOC was opioids. And so he's saying, like, I'm just now getting clear-headed. Like, I'm not ready. I want recovery. And so his mom called the insurance company. They said, no, we only pay for this amount of days. He's coming up on that amount of days. Now, if he leaves the program and uses again, then we can readmit him. Tell me how much sense that makes.
That doesn't make any sense. You're almost...
Go use again.
Go use again, and then we can tap into your insurance.
Yeah, then we can use your insurance and put you in there for another 30 days or whatever that is. So she called the mayor. She called the program. Sorry, you can pay out of pocket, $30,000, whatever it was. And honestly, tears in his eyes, left that program and was gone. Like, I want to say a week or two later. Between my loved one and that scenario, I just realized, can I save the world? No, I'm not trying to save the world, but if I can help one family not go through what my family went through, and not go through what my friend's family still goes through, losing their son, then losing their second son, and like 8 years later losing their third son. And this is something too that I'm such an advocate for, is people think of someone with addiction or substance use disorder, especially here in LA or New York or big cities. You think of the guy on the sidewalk at the stoplight, or under the underpass, or in a tent, or sleeping on the park benches and things like that. But in all honesty, they are your servers. They're your baristas. They are sitting in your church pews right beside you. They are your Trader Joe's cashiers. They are your bank tellers. Like, they are you and I, and you wouldn't even know it.
Yeah, something my yoga teacher always taught us. I think I first heard her say this when I was in Bali in 2019. It was a yummy adjustment advanced training for yoga, where we learned how to, we were at this point able to teach poses, but the course was kind of all about getting people into them deeper, depending on their bodies and their limits, using more of a restorative approach. And my teacher made this comment because I was telling a story about just my family and growing up, and how everyone was in recovery and still struggling, and she stopped me because I was presenting. It was something I was presenting, and something of that came out of my mouth, and she stopped and she's like, Kadie, one thing that I want you to remember coming out of this course is drugs, alcohol, it doesn't matter. We are all in recovery, and it is our job as really real yoga instructors to see people as we are all in recovery. We are all recovering from something. So do you resonate with that? Like, do you feel like there's something that you're recovering from, or would you say this is different? I
think your yoga instructor has her reasons for saying that. It was coming from a certain angle that maybe I'm not resonating with. I do think that somebody who struggles with substance use disorder or self-harm or disordered eating, what people don't realize and what makes this a disease, substance use disorder specifically, along with self-harm and disordered eating, but I can't really speak to those two topics.
Yeah.
Addiction and substance use disorder is the solution to whatever that person's problem is. So oftentimes it stems from something very young, or anxiety or mental health that hasn't been addressed. the drug or the substance, because it doesn't always have to be drugs, it could be alcohol too, is their coping.
It's a coping mechanism.
Doctors say we're all in recovery. I don't know what angle she was coming from.
I think it was from a similar but different angle, because, you know, we're all from, you know, there's 7 chakras. I don't know how much you know about that, but it starts in the base of your spine, but the emotion and like the time period that the base of your spine is connected to is your childhood and your youth. So I think that statement, maybe to like people who have gone through her training, was we are all in recovery from something that we're healing from that is stuck in behaviors and limiting beliefs from even childhood, or maybe something more up your spine, the sacral, which is middle-aged child, something might have happened to you.
The only thing that comes to mind is, but I'm very careful not to compare it to like substance use disorder, self-harm, things like that. But if I was recovering from anything or something that has affected me, especially as an adult, is my dad left us when I was very young, and I watched my mom really struggle and work hard to raise 3 kids on her own, getting a job that provided. And I am not a big feminist. I'm not a, I'm a strong female, but I think that made me a very strong female to this day. I won't rely on a man for happiness. I won't rely on a man for my bills to be paid. I won't rely on a man to complete my world.
Yeah.
And I think that stems
I resonate
from
with that.
It's made me who I am. It's made me a very strong person. It's made me, I get shit done. I'm independent, but maybe I'm too independent.
Now that I can resonate with too. and similar, like, because family members were struggling with heroin. My great grandmother raised me, and she was 65 when she took on my sister, and I was 2. My sister was 3. Like, can you imagine being 65 years old and restarting with children? She was a boss, but she was also kind of a broke boss. We relied on government funding, and I guess where I was transitioning with this thought is, as a child, this at Coffee and Crystals is such a big part of who I am and my story, and I talk about it. But as a child, there was so much guilt and shame. I didn't want anyone to know what my family was going through and why I was rolling up in a station wagon with my great grandmother. It was embarrassing to me that I didn't have what my friends had, which was a mom or a dad. And kids can be cruel too, and like they would ask a lot of questions. My sister, on the other hand, would be at church telling everybody and asking for help, and that's how she was healing, as she would tell her story and she would share with people, and I'd be like, stop telling everybody why we live with our grandmother. But you had mentioned when you were talking about the Million Mile Project of how the mentorship just helps with because people are struggling with a lot of guilt and shame, and sometimes they burn bridges with their own family members. So a big piece of what you do. And for me, that's a big part of why I like helping the Million Mile Project, because I think there's so many elements of this disease that affects the family members as well. Where I feel like I wish I had somebody that could help me understand, because growing up, we had DARE, and that just did a really good job of scaring you about drugs, but it didn't educate me that my family members had a disease. What DARE did is made me really scared of those family members, and I wanted nothing to do with them. Like, if I heard that they wanted to see us, I was scared of them. So it's interesting, because the Million Mile Project also helps you see people as individuals who are needing help and recovery, where I grew up being really fearful of people who were struggling with substance abuse disorder.
Well, and going back to the stigma part, I mean, this is wild to me still, but in my immediate family, we had a member of our family struggling. And then my dad's side's siblings' immediate family was struggling. Now, we're the same family. We see each other on holidays, in between. We're not estranged.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to them regularly. Both families never knew that they had a family member struggling. Because
it's a secret.
It's a secret. Because, one, again, it's a family disease. So the family wasn't doing anything to help themselves understand it. They just had this issue, and this person who's sick, who has a problem, and they're trying to get the person help. And it is, you do worry that people are going to look at your loved one differently, or how they're going to treat them at Christmas. In all honesty, we didn't need to say anything. Anytime we all got together as a family, it was very clear who had a problem, you know?
Yeah.
Or who wasn't there. But, I mean, the more we talk about it, the stigma is breaking. And, like, that time when I reached out to you, I don't remember how. I don't know if you commented on a post of mine, but, like, something you said made me think, like, I need to check on her. And you had said you didn't have anybody that you could speak to about it when it, like, first shit hit the fan.
Yeah, because, you know, I think my OG listeners might know what you're referencing, but about a year ago, I had somebody that I got really close to for about 2 years, another loved one, and the difference between this loved one and growing up with loved ones who were struggling is I actually wasn't immersed in what my loved family members were dealing with. My great grandmother got us states away from the problem. So I really grew up in the aftermath of hearing about it and the fear that I mentioned. But last year, I experienced somebody very close to me, and I experienced it in my community, in my home, and I loved this person. I still have a lot of love for this person, and I wanted to help this person, but my community, who they meant this out of love too, they're just, you know, unaware of the disease. And I would get so much backlash that was actually almost just as bad as what the trauma I was dealing with watching my loved one go through this illness and this addiction, because nobody wanted to help me because they were mad that I wanted to help this person. And I got so much backlash. Oh, you should be over this. You should block this person, you know, run far away. And to me, it felt like I was hitting a wall. Like, who can I even talk to? Because that's a big part of the family disease, because as a child, I felt alienated because I was embarrassed by it. And then as a young woman adult, I was alienated because I almost felt like nobody wanted to help me because I wanted to help that person.
Right. Like, how dare you have compassion for this person?
Like, look what this person did to you.
Why do you even care about him anymore? Yeah.
Yeah. And these same people, you know, 2 weeks prior loved this person too. So another strong reason why I really want to share the message of the Million Mile Project, because I do think a big piece of how we can get more people involved is if we can kind of get back to the root chakra. The base level problem here is that we are all in recovery, and that still resonates with me. And to, like Lauren said, she can't change the world, but we can change ourselves and we can change our communities. Mm-hmm. And little by little, that is how you make a big global change. And that's what the Million Mile Project did, because Lauren picked up the phone that day and she gave me a call and I cried, and I knew from that moment on that I wasn't alone, that I did have somebody. And that is what MMP does. It's not just the individual that is receiving help, it is the people in the family unit involved that are also getting the support. Yeah. So thank you, Lauren.
I had a grandmother call. Her grandson was in a different state, and you know, she wanted him to get help. He'd gotten help before, but still struggling, and he'd only been to 30-day treatments, and he's younger. But she said, I'm just all alone in this. I don't know what to do. And we were able to guide her to support in her area. Mm-hmm. I did some research. I suggested a book for her. I suggested just really mentorship and support for her, because you're the one who feels it. It's like going through a breakup. Not the same, I'm not comparing, but when you're going through a breakup, your friends are the ones being like, why?
Leave him! Block him!
He's done that. They only know what you hate about him or what he's done to you or whatever. You're feeling it. You are justifying the person's actions. You understand what drove them to that. You understand that someone with substance abuse is doing these things to run from his trauma or shame or whatever. And yeah, we're there to help guide the family to their own support, so that more people. It should have taken you as an adult to learn that there is help and support for you. They're one program, and it's not for everybody, but Al-Anon. That's just one of many.
I had never heard of Al-Anon. Again, coming from a family that had a lot of drug abuse, I had never heard of that until this recent situation. And I just think that this is really great awareness, because somebody listening is going to be like, wait, continue. Did you just cut her off? What is this? So yeah.
So there's Al-Anon, but again, there are so many paths to recovery. Everybody's recovery journey is different, very different. And so what somebody, really believes in Al-Anon, somebody else may experience Al-Anon and not like it. It's kind of like going to a yoga class. Some yoga instructors you love. Others you're like, I'm never going into a yoga class again.
Yeah.
And you hate that, like, they only gave it one try, But anyways, another one is FIST. It's Families in Supportive Treatment. They're actually located out of New York, but they serve the country. They have in-person meetups, but they got meetings and Zoom calls that support the country. So those are two, but the family or the loved one, the more knowledge that they have of the disease, the better support they can be for the loved one. And that could be setting boundaries that don't hurt you or your loved one, but you're learning more about the disease and learning how to move within it rather than not know what to do.
Yeah.
Because that doesn't help anybody.
So I want to talk, because we just passed Giving Tuesday. We're ending the year. I want to hear a little bit about how my listeners can support the Hope campaign, because there's a couple more weeks left of that. And then I want to dig a little bit into just relationship building and donor engagement, because I don't think people even know how to help. They're going to hear this and they're going to be like, okay, I'm sold. I want to help. And I think another thing that I've learned too, so I'll reframe these questions for you, is that people think that they can't help because maybe they're struggling financially themselves, or they just are like, ooh, maybe I don't have any money to give. So how do you cultivate and maintain long-term relationships with your donors, and what are some ways that people could get involved today with the Hope campaign?
So, a nonprofit that works with puppies is going to get a lot more attention and love and shares and excitement than helping someone who is sick, or especially if you yourself have not experienced it. You don't understand the impact. What people don't understand too is the impact that this disease has on our community, on our cities, on our states, on our country, on the world. And the more programs like the Million Mile Project that are coming about, the more advocacy there is for it, the more understanding, education, and awareness. So I share that because we can post all day long on social media about the Million Mile Project, and all someone hears is substance use disorder. And if it doesn't immediately resonate with them, they're like, oh, that's cool, and they keep going. What I think is so important is people remembering about MMP, the number of phone calls or emails that we've gotten because their friend heard about us on social media, or their friend knows me and gave them my number, word of mouth, just knowing that we are a resource out there that helps people get into treatment and then help them rebuild their life, and we're guidance and support for the loved ones. Those three things is what we focus on. So to your point, what people can do to support, I'll never forget, a friend of mine said, it was after about a year, I don't know, maybe 8 months that MMP had been going, and she said, I really want to support MMP. I'm just waiting until I have enough money to make a significant impact. And I said, what do you mean? And she goes, I mean, like, I want to donate, like, enough to make a difference. And I was like, $20 makes a difference.
Mm-hmm.
Like, don't feel like you've got to donate hundreds or $1,000 or whatever this significant amount is in your head. A significant amount is your pocket change.
Yeah.
Most of our donors are the $25, $50, $100 donations. And that makes up probably 90% of our donations.
Yeah.
So if you can imagine anybody who thought, what's my $20 going to do? Didn't donate.
Yeah.
We wouldn't be able to help someone.
Yeah, that really resonated with me just in general, because one of my other friends was trying to buy dog beds, and she said in the post, like, the dog bed she's trying to get is a little expensive, but they're in the shelters and it's easy to clean. I think it was like a $90 bed. But that comment that you had made, and I was like, can't give $90, but I'll give her $20, because now she only needs $70 more for that bed. You know, that's, 3 more people like me.
Yeah. If
So
you wait until you have enough money to give, other priorities are going to come up or whatever, but everybody who thinks that what's their measly $25 or measly $50 or whatever that amount is going to do, I'm here to tell you it makes a difference, because it all adds up. 10 people who give $10, that's $100 right there.
yeah. So now drop the link in the show notes, and maybe it's your coffee money for the week, right? Support Coffee and Crystals.
I did have someone do that, actually.
Yes?
So, sorry to cut you off.
Yeah, no.
She's like, Lauren, I really want to help. And as you know, because I know her personally, she's like, as you know, it has been very tight with me financially. I just switched jobs, yada, yada. But one thing I do for myself every morning is I get my cup of coffee from my local coffee shop. I do that every morning on the way to work. And this week, I'm not going to stop and get coffee. I'm going to make coffee at my home. And I'm going to donate what I would have spent on coffee this week, which is about $30.
Love it.
To MMP. And she did. And
but,
that meant so much, because she planned that out. She thought that out. She
really there's emotional support there.
Yeah. And yes, financial donations, that's how we're able to help people. Unfortunately, the world doesn't revolve and work on hopes, dreams, and big hearts.
Yeah.
Kind doesn't pay for treatment.
Yeah.
However, sharing our posts, that's huge. Liking, commenting, and what that does, for any of you who don't know about social media, is like, first of all, nobody's going to social media if they're the one intoxicated needing help.
Right.
But their loved ones or their friends,
they're desperate.
They're seeing posts, and if they happen to see this one post come across that someone shared, then they're like, oh, wait, I'm just dealing with my brother.
Yeah, I mean, being active on social media is how Lauren knew that I was struggling last year.
Mm-hmm.
So it helps.
Yeah. So sharing posts, commenting, getting the word out. If you can't yourself, donate, talk to somebody that you know can. We all know somebody who is struggling with this disease. Or family members of that person struggling with the disease. And there are a lot of people out there that want to help. For so many years, I knew I wanted to do something in this space, but I didn't know what I could do.
Yeah.
I don't drink, I don't use any substance, but...
And she's someone that says that and actually really does it.
Yeah, no, I don't.
She said, you don't want to see Lauren on alcohol.
I mean, I'm like really fun until I'm not.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know that line. And don't get me wrong, I could sit here and have a glass of wine and be fine. For what?
For what? A headache. That's what wine does to me now.
I got my quiet time to look forward to in the morning.
Yeah.
I miss that,
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not in recovery, so I was thinking like, how can I be a voice for a demographic that I'm not part of? Like,
Yeah.
How can I help a demographic that I can't stand in their shoes or say I've been there? And then I realized I've been that family member. I've been that loved one. I've witnessed a friend begging for help, begging for longer treatment, and be denied and pass away because of it. And that's when I decided, like, all right, I don't have to be the one in recovery or having gone through this disease myself, but witnessing it from a loved one's perspective, I can help loved ones so much, and still the ones that are struggling too. So that's why we were founded.
Yeah.
So back to your original question, like, spreading the word, spreading awareness, Giving Tuesday. Some people who gave on Giving Tuesday are people I've never met.
Yeah.
I have no idea who they are.
That's awesome,
but
though.
their friend's mom's coworker donated. We've got a monthly donator from someone in Oklahoma, I think. Oklahoma. Who literally, like, downed some family tree's coworker.
Yeah, somebody saw it and resonated.
Somebody saw it because someone reposted our post. She clicked on it, went to our website, and was like, oh, this is valuable. This is an organization I want to support. And now she's a monthly donor. I've never met her.
Yeah. I love that because, we hear, Alcohol Anonymous is obviously anonymous, but just this is a good reminder to all of us, or a learning moment, that the family that isn't struggling with the addiction is also many times anonymous, and just being that example. So in the Coffee and Crystal community, I always like every show that hopefully you guys are signing off with a little bit of yoga homework, but I think Lauren's reminding us that, stop worrying so much about like the numbers and like how many people you're impacting. Showing up as the example is the start of the change. And those.
And also, when viewing someone that's struggling, it's very quick to look at the person's shell, like the outside, and this negative word, like judge immediately, instead of thinking, wow, this person is really going through something.
Mm-hmm.
Like, meeting substance abuse with compassion and empathy goes a lot further.
Yeah, you can't meet fire with fire.
No, you can't. And someone who doesn't meet someone that's struggling with substance use disorder with compassion and empathy, it's a very telltale sign that they don't understand the disease. And that's okay too. Most people don't, unless they've done the work on themselves to understand it and educate themselves on it. Yeah. It's
are someone that is struggling with addiction, I thought it would be fun to share a crystal that would be helpful. For my story growing up, my family and the addiction really was rooted in heroin. So a good crystal, if you are looking for hope and need something to ground you, the color purple of the lepidite is...
Hold on. Are you serious?
Yeah. You know this crystal?
No, but purple is like the color of recovery for substance use disorder. I know that it's the color for several different, but like...
This is why I love yoga and crystals, because it's like I didn't even put those two things together, and I don't think the crystal did either.
No, I don't.
But one of its healing properties is having hope. And someone who is in the fetal position, just begging for their lives...
That's a good crystal.
It's like they're reaching for hope.
Yeah.
Also, I brought some because I didn't have a lepidite here, but these are cleansing crystals. So a quartz. My loved one actually passed this to me. This person went into a recovery after a really terrible accident that he had, and this was given to him. And this crystal is just really, it's a cleansing agent. So it's good even if you're just dealing with trauma in general. This is something that can kind of like clean your slate. And then another guy that when I mentioned, and like Lauren said, she didn't necessarily resonate it, but I got this Ganesha when I was in Bali, and Ganesha is the Hindu god of removing obstacles. And this guy, I passed to someone who was struggling with addiction right before he went into recovery, and he thought he lost it. and somebody mailed it back, and we don't know who. So this Ganesha found its way back to me. So yeah, I feel like I'll probably pass Ganesha to somebody again who's struggling and needing removing of obstacles. But for now, he was like, no, wait, I want to stay with Kadie a little bit longer. So I thought I'd share that.
Oh, that's really cool.
So I had a question for you, which might throw us off, but I'll just drive us right back on course. But I have a feeling I might know your answer, which is going to get me to a point that I wanted us to talk about today.
Okay.
In like the energy of ending 2024 and going into 2025, I'm asking a lot of my community and my guests what their most unhinged thing that they did in 2024, like the wildest thing that you'd say that you did in 2024. What would that be?
I mean, anytime I think of unhinged,
feels unwell.
well, it brings me directly to August 22nd when I lost a beautiful person in my life. And unhinged for me was not working out, was not eating. I'm not one of these people who emotionally eat. I'm the opposite. Lose my appetite, don't eat, don't work out. Eyes wide open at 3 a.m. Just not able to take care of myself. And really because that is just the monumental piece of the year. That's like the only thing that comes to mind as far as unhinged.
We were going to cover this.
Maybe wrestling crack out of someone's hand in a bathroom, but like, that's just a day in the life.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, I thought you were going to say.
So please tell me what I was supposed to say.
I figure whatever you say, there we have it.
Oh, wait.
There
I
we
ran
have
a
it.
marathon.
I mean,
See?
if I would have completed the marathon, that would have been the most unhinged thing. But running that 20 miles in Michigan where I went live with you guys every mile, like
got yourself
unhinged.
so sick.
And then my mom was like chasing me down, rushing me like it was an easy thing to do because she thought I was going to be late for family dinner. I'm like, I am running 20 miles here. Like that almost feels so long ago, but that probably was one of my most unhinged moments of 2024.
Yeah, for sure, mine too. But
my knee was cracking.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So before the marathon, all right. So guys, I'm not a runner. Yes, I'm a coach. I'm a health and fitness personal trainer. Yada yada. I lift heavy things and I put them down. I do not move my legs fast in one motion down some street.
She doesn't. She was recruiting me for a marathon, even though I wasn't ready either. But at least I knew I was a runner. And she's like, yeah, I've never even run a mile. It's going to be in a month. I'm like, why are we not freaking out about this?
You and Clock, my husband, both were like, are you not concerned? I'm like, what am I concerned about? He was like, the marathon. Like, I don't think you're taking this seriously.
I mean, I know you, so I knew you were taking it seriously, but I was just like, what the heck? Like, yeah, I at least made like 7 miles one day. And she's like, I made a mile. I'm like, we're running in 3 weeks.
My long runs were our beach 5 a.m.
Oh, beautiful mornings.
I got up to 6 miles.
And then she ran 26. No big deal.
I did do a half marathon like a month before it, but that was the longest I ran. And that, like, I went... By the way, when I say run, I mean like my legs went the distance of a mile or 6 or 13.1. Like, I've only ever in my life, I don't even know if you want to say jogged a full mile without walking. But yeah, that marathon was the most unhinged thing I think I've done in my entire life.
So what's the correlation between the LA Marathon and the Million Mile Project?
So the Million Mile Project is a nonprofit partner of the LA Marathon. So the LA Marathon, anybody can join, but they have nonprofits that they help promote, that they raise awareness for, that you're able to, the Million Mile Project pays for the runner's entry, and then that runner is running on our team to raise awareness and raise funding for our nonprofit. So our runners, while they're training, they're talking about it. They are raising awareness, raising funding, sending out emails or connecting with friends and family, letting them know why they're running the LA Marathon and what organization they're running it for. And other than the race fee that MMP has to pay for each runner, MMP keeps all of the funding that the runners raise.
Yeah.
And every dime goes directly to treatment placement assistance and our mentorship program.
And it's fun. Like, it's not easy.
Calm down. That is a stretch.
Okay,
it's fun now.
It's fun once you actually get there. So another cool thing about Lauren, like, who else would sign up for this? So she had the weekends off. I mean, Lauren's never off. She's always working, but like off of her, like somewhere she had to be. Yeah. But I wasn't. I had to be like somewhere. I had to be like walking my dog at home, leaving for my hour drive that I had to be somewhere at 10. Therefore, I am teeing Lauren up that like, yeah, sure, if you want to train for me, we have to start at 5 a.m.
I'm like, okay.
Like, nobody is signing up for that. We actually did recruit Serena a couple times, which I was just like, really? You want to do this? But I'm telling you guys, if you're going through something or if you're not going through something, there is something really spiritual about already moving your body and running towards, like, because we were running like kind of like the Malibu, where were we? The state park in New
Rogers State Beach.
Yeah. So running towards Santa Monica Pier, literally watching the sunrise. So if you're needing a spiritual practice, I mean, if you're not a runner, like, do this for yourself. Like, have the discipline.
Taking photos.
Yeah. But that was a big part of it. It's good for the content.
And I did actually focus on my run.
So yeah, if you want to join our team, we'll also put that information in the show notes. There's an opportunity to not be as brave and unhinged as Lauren and do a 5K or a half marathon, but
we're doing the half marathon this year. We do have 5K spots as well because LA 5K is just a charity run.
Okay.
And so, yeah, we've got 5K runners, we've got half marathon runners, and we've got marathon runners. I am proud to say I did finish. My only goal, people would be like, so what's your goal for the marathon? What's the time you're aiming for?
Yeah, everyone wanted to know my time. I'm like, I'm just trying to get there.
To beat the cleanup crew.
She did keep saying
that. Every single time someone would ask me, my goal is to beat the cleanup crew. They're like, whew.
It's a community, though. The runners, they show up, and it's a good energy. I all local, and you just want training opportunities. Obviously, reach out to Laura and I. We're going to be bringing back the beach runs on Sundays and the weekends, but 7 o'clock at the Pink Wall, the Paul Smith Wall. The West Hollywood Run Club runs 3 miles every Thursday, so that would be a way to get into community and also get some miles in and meet some new friends.
Aren't even from LA. This year, we've got South Dakota, Colorado, South Carolina, still California, but San Diego. Yeah. And we've got some spots.
Yeah, because people love that.
Washington.
It is like a travel nugget. Because like one of my first half marathons that I ran, it was because like me and the girls, we wanted to go to Orlando for the weekend. So it might be a fun trip to do with your partner or a family member. I know my uncle now, because since everyone thinks I'm a runner now, he's like trying to get my aunt and I to sign up for a marathon in Greece. And honestly, like if you want a trip with family, like it might be fun to book a ticket and hang out for LA in the weekend. The energy is high. I didn't make the run, but I was still like immersed in
you were such a cheerleader.
Such a cheerleader. And I remember when I lived in New York, that was like one of my favorite days of the year, is to get out there with signs and support the runners. So many different ways to support us, guys. So don't sit on this.
Yeah. And then also we're having a team dinner plus guest Saturday evening. So people who ran the 5K Saturday and people who are running the half and full Sunday, we have a team dinner. We have team calls. You're supported through your fundraising, education. We have Zoom meetups. Like you have support in your training. I make sure everybody's training their glutes and hamstrings and posterior chain, because if you're just running, you're gonna get injured. High chance. But I will say I did not get injured. I lost 2 toenails and that was it.
It's so interesting because the way I get injured, it was more like in my lungs. So as the yogi, I like look back and I just don't think I was breathing correctly. that's something to think about. And now as I lead, because I lead the stretch run club I was talking about, and that's now something I focus on is like the breathing, because if you when you're up on 17, 18, 19, 20 miles, your breath gets shorter, and that can really put some strain on your lungs. So
you could just do like I did, jog the whole thing.
Yeah. That was such a fun day though. Like, even though it broke me, I just saw all of Michigan that day. It was a beautiful like kickoff to the spring when I was running. So running can be spiritual.
This year too, I'm doing the half, so it'll be 13. But for the marathon, I had 13 miles here written out with 13 names and 13 names here. And so every mile that I ran was designated for someone specific.
I love that.
And so family members or even a person for themselves would sponsor a mile. So I just took our goal, divided it by 26, and you could purchase the mile for this loved one's name. And so I was on social media talking about, that mile, who that person was for. I did it in increments of 5 so that I wasn't like constantly on my phone. But it's such a personal, intimate time for you. You can make it what you will,
Exactly.
My loved one who I spoke of earlier was number 1, and Vinny, unfortunately, that we lost this year, was my last. And my brother got me started, and he brought me home. This year, I think my loved one will be my first one, and then I think Vinny will be the rest.
Yeah.
But
I wish I got to meet Vinny.
I know.
He's such a big part of the Million Mile Project and always will be.
He was such an example of the beautiful life that recovery offers. He was in recovery for over 4 years. He came so far. I don't know the active addiction Vinny, as what he would call himself. I only knew the Vinny that was in recovery.
Mm-hmm.
And he was just the most self-aware, a wonderful human being, looked at people with compassion and empathy, not judgment.
Mm-hmm.
Very healthy when it came to like his approach to being kind.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just an example of how this disease is such a beast.
It's such a beast because my family members, a couple of them, family disease here, that struggled truly, and I'm not just saying this because they're my family members, are some of the smartest, funniest, like they light up the room. My loved one I was talking about that I lost a year ago, like literally one of the most educated, charismatic humans I've ever met. So I can't say it enough, that the Million Mile Project is just bringing light to the humanness and the individual outside of the disease.
Yeah. In 2025, we're starting what we call Vinny's Vision. It's going to have its own page on our website as well. One of the things that he was wanting to do in 2025, we already launched, which I was really excited to do that for him, but it's called the Essentials Bags. And if you go to our it's not on our website yet, it will be in January, but our social media has posted about it. But most people who go into treatment, whether they're coming from mom or dad and dad's house, or whether they're coming from a motel or on the street, they very seldom have their own personal essentials, like hygiene essentials.
Mm-hmm.
So also we want to make sure to connect with every individual that we scholarship, so that at the end of their treatment, so we could reconnect and help mentor them to get them back on their feet. But every person that we scholarship gets a like one of those drawstring backpack bags.
Yeah. Drawstring backpack bags. Branded.
With our logo on it. But it's got things like socks, toothbrush, toothpaste, body wash and loofah, razor and shaving cream, a handwritten card from us, deodorant. And so the 5 organizations that we work with will already have those bags, so that when we scholarship someone, like maybe they get there the same day and they have their essentials right then. Like that was something that Vinny thought of earlier this year.
Because Vinny knows. And I think that, again, these things that we're not thinking about unless you experience it. When my loved one was finally raised their hand, was like, I need help. I mean, we're organizing, we're calling, we're getting into treatment. Like it's just like how many of you listening hate traveling because you forget like the shoes that you wanted to bring, and it's hard enough to just get into recovery. And I think it's great that the Million Mile Project does things like this. It's like the afterthoughts, the things that like you don't even have time to collect your things because you're just, sometimes these treatment centers, they pick you up in an Uber, or like you have to be ready at a certain time. And when you go, you go. If somebody's willing to drive you there, you go, and you don't have time to get your stuff together. Or you might have blown something up so bad that you don't have access to this stuff anymore.
Right. And it's not one of those times where you just stop at CVS,
gotta get my floss
and get your essentials on the way. Like you're not going on a trip. They're ready. It's time to go.
Yeah.
And so all of that stuff is there for them.
It's the details.
Yeah. So yeah, Vinny thought of that, and I saw the notes, and we made it happen.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. So $20 pays for one essentials bag.
That $20 again.
That $20 again.
All right, guys. We're donating our coffee to the Million Mile Project this week. I'm counting on you guys.
But yeah, you can get more information at themillionmileproject.org. We're on Instagram. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn. Yeah.
All right.
And I appreciate you so much for your support. Like, you've been a huge cheerleader, and
I need the Million Mile Project just as much as the Million Mile Project needs. You know, it's like, it's just, you can only teach what you know. As a yoga instructor, I always say that to you guys. Like, you can't teach somebody something super well if you're not immersed in it yourself. And I'm learning, you know, I'm like, I've been in sales and marketing for years, but this is why I was like teeing up Lauren, like, nonprofit isn't for anyone, because it's hard. And it's hard, like everything we talked about today. It's, even if you're not the one struggling, you do struggle to talk about your loved one struggling. So I think the Million Mile Project, all the things we talked about today, has become a place where it's helped me heal. Last year was part of like the 5-year collection of some of the hardest, like I'll remember these years all my life as like a pivotal moment in my life. And Million Mile Project showed up for me. You know, I kicked off this year running the marathon, raising as much money as I could. So thank you to everyone who helped support the money that I raised at the beginning of this year. And full circle, I kind of just landed closing out the year supporting Million Mile Project. So I appreciate you.
yeah.
So to kind of close out the episode, I'd love to, I take that some of my gurus in the podcast industry is I love Oprah and I love Jay Shetty. And Jay Shetty always asks his listeners at the end, like he has like a fire off of 5 questions that everybody answers. So I got to kind of like create my own, but it is a spiritual podcast here on Coffee and Crystals. Do you relate with the word spirituality, and how can you share with our listeners what that means to you?
Spirituality and religion are different, but I am religious as well. How it pertains to the Million Mile Project or substance use disorder is, though I did mention earlier that everybody's path to recovery is different, everybody's recovery journey is different. One of those modalities is AA, for example. And you'll hear a lot of people say, like, I don't like AA because they talk about God. That is a clear indication that they've never actually learned about AA. Because it does mention God, but it very distinctly says whatever that term means to you. Because spirituality in this sense does talk about realizing that this is a disease out of your own control. You have to surrender. You have to recognize that this is out of your control. You're not able to just decide. If you wait on motivation to get you sober, you're never going to get sober.
Honestly, anything in life, motivation and inspiration is great, but you need discipline.
Yes, discipline and commitment. And commitment gets you through the hard times and those moments that you're not motivated to get up at 5 a.m., you know?
You might never be, but sometimes you just got to do the hard things and surrender.
Right. So spirituality this was by far, hands down, the hardest and worst year of my life. And if it wasn't for my relationship, you know, I am religious in my relationship with God, but also me just leaning into and surrendering to that higher power, and just knowing that Like, it wasn't me that got me up out of bed. On mornings, I didn't think it was possible. Or...
Been there, girl.
Yeah.
Feel ya.
Yeah.
I'm here, so I could give you a hug. Knock over all the equipment on the way over to you.
Let's not do that. We're just, like, tied into where we're would be a good ending.
Crash
ending. But I know spirituality is kind of different for everybody, but I do believe in that higher power and leaning into it and trusting in it. And honestly, this mug couldn't be more perfect. Like, be kind to yourself, be kind to the human at the stoplight that's didn't go fast enough.
Yeah.
You know, like, everybody's going through something. But yeah, just leaning into the...
Thank you for sharing.
The bigger power.
If you had to make a rule that everyone had to follow, what would you stick with?
That's a good one.
That's a Jay Shetty question. Really? Thanks, Jay.
Shout out. I wasn't ready for him. A rule?
Yeah. Like, you had to make a rule. Well, I guess maybe...
Talk less, act more.
Mm.
One of my mottos is mouth closed, feet busy.
Yeah, be where your feet are.
It doesn't, but it doesn't matter what someone says. It's all in their actions.
Yes.
It is all in their actions. I could tell you, Kadie, that I will be here for you and I'm here to help you and whatever support you need. I don't know that I actually said any of those words.
Yeah.
I actually don't know that I said any of those words. But my actions screamed it.
Right.
And you have people who do mean well, but they say that. And then they don't know how to show up.
Right.
So, less talking, more action.
Which is a great way to tap into spirituality. You know, going inward means you have to be quiet. You know, as a very chatty gal.
More, the quieter you are.
Yeah.
I have a friend, she posts everything on social media from like movie trailers to like stupid memes to pictures of kids to cats and dogs to like stuff we were like, how old are you? So nobody ever sees her post because they just like...
Right, because it's like, get through it.
Myself, I don't know.
Well, as like a content creator, the new thing, if anyone's, you know, trying to build their business on content, is you definitely don't want to do more. And I do it. So here I am like doing something I'm telling you not to do. But my Kadie Cron, if you follow me, isn't a business. It's just me. But coffee and crystals. So what I'm getting at is a tip for you guys. You don't want to do more than 3 stories a day.
Oh, really? I do a lot.
If it's something like, for instance, she made a comment that she did every mile, it's like, that's kind of like a mini vlog. That's different. But on your social media algorithm is going to boot you off as like a robot. 3 impactful stories a day. That's what it says. Guess what? It might change next week. But that's the latest. Totally. I just saw it on Monday. A little Instagram, like YouTube
I don't know.
thing.
I mean, I believe you because you're more of an expert than I am.
It's constantly changing.
But my view count, not that I have anything to talk about, but like my view count doesn't, whether I have 3 or whether I have 7, they're kind of all the same.
Yeah.
I guess it also depends on what you're posting.
It's about length now. That's why. Like even like podcasts. So little commercial break. Make sure you're following Coffee and Crystals right now. Take the moment. Whatever platform, if it's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, make sure you're following the show. But the algorithm now, that's still important. So thank you for the followers. I love you guys. I appreciate you guys. But it's about the longevity of how long they're listening. Like, have they made it to this moment right here on the show? That's what matters. Just like your story. Like, are they like coming back, holding it, really looking at it? So that's another thing that's changed. Is views are always going to matter and it's never going to go away, but it's actually the content and the amount of time they're streaming your content.
Gotcha.
So thank you for making it this far, guys.
Thank you. Are you asleep?
Yeah, right. Any question for me before we sign off? Episode 130. Does that number resonate with you at all?
No.
I always ask, because numbers are a thing. The numerology is a thing. So we're episode 130.
Okay. I kind of like that I'm on like an
even
number.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of this year?
Ooh, she gets me when I'm down. What am I the most proud of? It's not like me to be so stumped as I'm trying to motivate my listeners of being so inspirational. I think what I'm most proud of is for so many years, I really made a really great career for myself. I always had the director title. You know, for 5 years of my life, I was pretty much always chosen to be the one for the global trips. And I've learned a lot about the ego surrounding that and how much I was chasing that. And not to say that I'm not in the job market and looking for a new job right now, but I think this last year, what I'm proud of is this much needed downtime allowed me to properly heal, because I didn't have a job and a title and a business trip to hide behind, that I had to sit in all this pain of, honestly, I had realizations the last couple of months that I wasn't over my divorce as much as I was telling everybody I was. I really felt like I was, but I never had the time to even realize that I hadn't healed from 2020 on. You know, a lot has happened in the last 5 years of my life, a lot of huge changes. And I'm proud that the universe made me sit in it and made me less busy. I got a lot of pages written on my future book I'm writing. And stay hydrated, guys, and leave me a comment. Share this show. Somebody that you feel like could benefit from hearing about us. Reach out to either one of us if you have any questions about how you can get involved. I'd love to recruit some runners from this show.
Yes, we do have 5K, half, and marathon spots still available, and we're about ready to start amping it up.
All right, let's do it.
Months.
All right, have a good week, guys. Talk to you next week.
Bye.